I'm Lisa from Elman B and welcome to my channel. I just thought that I would do a little Friday night live for you all. And I would just do something really easy and really simple since it is a Friday night and we're trying to keep it chill and relaxed and have a little fun. I went to grab a canvas and I found this one, which is one of my really easy, beginner-friendly workshops that I do. And I painted half of this in a workshop just as a demo piece. And I thought, why not just use the other half of this tonight? It'll keep it nice and short. I can show you how to create that. We'll end up with a finished piece. Now, hopefully you guys can see enough of the canvas. That'll do. We can see enough of it. And I'm just going to get painting. Now, I can't remember the exact colours that I used when I was painting this one. So I've had to guess and we will see what happens. Right, let me get started. I am going to use probably a couple of mop brushes. Mop brushes are one of my favorite painting brushes to use and is actually one of my little top tips. So you might notice that these have very fancy handles, and that is because they're actually makeup brushes. So getting some cheap makeup brushes, I mean, look at this set. The handles on these are absolutely beautiful, but also they are a really big set and I have a few of them. Can't find them all now. Oh, here's the rest. Yay. So this was really cheap. This was like less than £5 from one of our local like kind of bargain stores. And there's even some eyeshadow brushes that were in that set as well. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. So these are just makeup brushes, and these really fluffy round ones here are perfect for mop brushes. Loads of different shapes and excuse me, loads of different shapes and sizes. And then these little eyeshadow brushes, this is like a baby mop brush. I was using this one today, so it's still damp, but that's like a little baby mop brush all the way around. And this one is an absolutely perfect filbert brush, and that is really good for making leaf shapes and things like that. So we're probably going to use this one today as well. But let me get some paint out and get started. I think it might be quite a quiet one because it is a Friday night and you guys should all be out having fun. I should be out having fun too, but I was stuck in the house, so I thought let's just do some painting and we can have a little chat with anyone that comes on. Right, I am just going to pick it's about a 1-inch mop brush, this one. It's just one of the ones from my little makeup set there. And I'm going to work first of all on this background. We're going to start with the paler colors and we're going to work out into darker colors. I'm probably going to work a little bit on this side as well, just because I want the two to match and it to end up being a little finished piece. I do have a little second mushroom here that I need to fill in as well. Let me just get a little sip because it is a Friday night, guys. So we have a little sip before we get painting. There we go. Okay, so I'm getting out some yellow. I am using my Liquitex Basics. Liquitex is one of my favorite paint brands. I use a mix of their basics and their heavy bodied. For something like this though, I find the basics are just as good. So let's get some yellow out. And I've got a light green here. Now, I'm not sure if I used any light green in this or if I just used the dark green and the yellow mixed together. But we're going to get some light green out anyway and see what happens. So I'm getting a little bit of light green out, and I'm getting some of our dark green out. So the colors that I've got are cadmium yellow, which is a medium hue. It's just light green permanent and deep green permanent that I have got going there. I'm also going to use a little bit of phthalo blue, one of my favorite blues. It's got a really kind of warm greeny tone to it, so that's great. It's good to have in with these colors, and we will get the red and stuff out when we need it. We're also pretty much always gonna need some titanium white, so let's get some titanium white out as well. Okay, let's just go for this and see what happens. Colors might be completely wrong, so I'm just going to start with the yellow and a tiny bit of that light green. I do not want to bring in any white into this middly bit here, because I tend to find that when you add whites into greens, they go really minty, and that's not something that we hugely see in nature a lot. We do have some plants that have that kind of blue minty tone to them, but stuff's a bit more yellow and a bit more natural. So I've got some paint on my mop brush here, and I'm just going to tap it. Oh, it's a pretty good color match. I think we might be okay. We're just going to tap it around the mushroom. I don't mind if I go over that mushroom edge a little bit. In fact, I want to do that so that when I paint my red on, I get a really nice crisp edge. But I don't want to go over it completely, just because then painting that red layer is going to be tricky. Now, if I was painting this in one of my daily minis, or I was painting something that was a little bit more complicated, then I would paint the whole thing and I would paint the mushroom over the top. But to make it a bit more beginner friendly, we are just going in and around the edge. Now, obviously, I've already painted in some of this before. I'm just going to have to go over it and sort that out later. It'll be fine. So you can see I'm just tapping my brush, smooshing it onto the canvas. That's what I like to think about. Just tap and smoosh onto the canvas. I want a bit more of that yellow over this side because I feel like we didn't get bright enough around that mushroom, and I do want to blend the two together, and I'm going to go back over the whole thing anyway, so we're not really worried too much about it. Bringing in some of that light green again as well, just to break up the yellow, and I'm just tapping lots of times onto the canvas. Again, just leaving these mushrooms almost not filled in, just to make it easier to paint later on. There we go. Good, that is a good start round there. And like I say, I'm just going to bring some of those colors over into the other side a bit so that I can blend the two halves of this together better. Right now we're going to go in with that dark green, which is our deep permanent green. We're going to go in with some of that, and we're going to tap in the darker edge. Now, the reason we're doing this tapping technique is the great thing about a mop brush is it kind of leaves a print that looks a bit like foliage. It looks like leaves or branches or something like that. So it's building up and creating the background without you having to do any work. So it's a really good beginner friendly tip. So let's get that tapped in here. All the way around the whole canvas. I am going to be bringing in some darker colors as well, and that's why I've got that bit of blue. I am picking up green and yellow on my brush all at the one time, just so that I get a nice variation of different greens and foliage colors in there. So this is a really, really beginner friendly one. But also if you have painted before, then you can add in extra techniques. You can do loads of other things. Let's go. Okay, so we're going in now with the straight dark green, which is the deep permanent. And we're just tapping that in, just making sure the bottom edge of this canvas gets covered because my easel's got a little lip, so we don't want that to be hidden. And while I'm down here working on this edge, I'm going to pick up the tiniest little touch of that phthalo blue, and I'm going to have that. I've not cleaned my brush at all yet, so I'm going to have that in with the deep permanent green. Okay, so a little bit of blue on my brush, and I'm just tapping it on my palette next to the green, so that I'm also getting that dark green on there as well. Can we see in this light? Ooh, no. Okay, there we go though. Look at that. Beautiful dark greeny blue, just creating a bit of a vignette around the edge. And you can really show when you tap lightly on there, you get lots of these marks that look like they are branches and stuff, and that's what we're aiming for. Just bringing some of that color in on the other side, and then we'll go across the top. So more of the deep green, a little bit of the phthalo blue, smooshing it all together on the brush. Still haven't cleaned my brush. Hardly ever clean my brushes, to be honest. I do clean them at the end so that they stay nice and pristine and wonderful. But when I'm painting, very rarely clean my brush. I like all my colors to merge. And then I'm just thinking about where I want these branches and foliage to come on this side. Now we're going to add a little bit of that dark blue in there, but I think we're going back in with some of the light green as well now, just to fill in this edge. I don't want it to be super dark all the way around. We might come back with a bit more of the dark stuff. So just tapping and dotting. We're basically getting texture on the canvas. We are using the mop brush, and these are just makeup brushes, and we're using those to create that texture. Here we go. Lovely. Just making sure I get the bottom of my canvas. Like I say, this easel's got a little lip on it. I think we need to go in with a bit more of the darkest blue around that edge. I know on the recording it looks like it's really dark, but it's actually not. So we're just going to go in with a tiny touch more of the blue coming in here. Now it's pretty much the blue on its own. It's just got the tiniest bit of that green in there. And a little bit on this edge as well. Again, I painted half of this already, so I'm just trying to bring the two halves of this painting together. And we're just creating lots and lots of depth and layers of foliage. Okay. A bit more of the dark blue. So that's like, you can literally leave it like that. I don't like the fact that this little mushroom here looks like it's kind of got a glow round about it. I do want to blend that in a bit more. So I am gonna clean that mop brush, but to save me time, because I would have to clean it and then really rinse it out and dry it loads, because we don't want loads of moisture in our mop brushes when we're working with them. Quite often we do just want a dry mop brush. So I'm just going to grab another one. That's why I have so many mop brushes, because I'm going to go back into that yellow and lighter green, just with a tiny bit of the darker green in there, because I want to kind of not have that weird, I purposely left a big yellow circle around the mushrooms. We are going to add in some grasses and stuff at the bottom here as well, but I just didn't want the big obvious. Here we go. So we got a bit of darker grasses and things down in the bottom. And it doesn't look quite so halo effect around my two mushrooms. Okay, let's get going. Again, I'm just going to dunk this in water and I will clean it and dry it out later. We are just going to get going with the first layer of that red. Now, that's just a little top tip, because the reds sometimes are quite translucent, and we don't want to put the red on and then it be see-through and that we can see all of the stuff going on behind it. Again, this might not be the right color of red. We might have to paint the whole mushroom. Oh, I think I might have guessed right. I think it might be the right color. So the other thing is, acrylics always dry a little bit darker. So I've just put that on and it does look a little bit lighter, but then that's probably going to dry a bit darker. So I am just going to super carefully paint on our first layer of red. I am just trying to be quick. I don't want to be sitting here chatting to you guys for hours. I also don't want this video to be super long. So I'm just gonna do it really quickly. I'm using quite a big brush. I'm using my basically eyeshadow brush, which is a filbert. I'm just using that. And oh, do you know what? It's going on quite well. It might not need a second coat. We will see. I usually come back and do a second coat with a red just to make sure it's good and strong. Look at that. Now, if I can manage this without changing brushes, we're just going to do a little bit of a hint of the background of that mushroom. Okay, here we go. And we're just going to add a little bit of that over this side because it didn't get it. Now, you know the color that is going to be the hardest to match is this one because I mixed it up. So we're just going to go with whatever happens, and I might have to repaint the whole stalk and base. That's fine. We don't mind. Right, so I've cleaned off that filbert, and I'm going to get mostly white, a tiny bit of the yellow. There's still a bit of red on my paintbrush, which might be giving it enough. Okay, let's see. Let's see how this is looking. It is not the same color, but it's close enough as a base. So I've just basically mixed up white, yellow, and the tiniest touch of red. Oh no, we picked up some of the red paint. Do you know what Bob Ross would tell us? It's just a happy little accident. It's just creating some shadows. We're not worried. We're going to counteract that with the tiniest bit of green mixed into our yellow and white, and tiny hint of red and tiny hint of green mixture. I'm just trying to make up like a really pale beigey brown. And we're going to get that underneath the mushroom. If I had more time, I would be being more fussy about this, but like I say, I'm just trying to paint this quickly so you guys can see something that just works as a really simple base. And I'm just painting back over the whole of my stalk. And then we're going to add in some shading and some shadows, but just let's go with a really light layer as a base. We've got another little mushroom here, and I totally forgot about him when I was doing the red. So let's get his little stalk in. The base of their stalks are both going to be head with grasses and stuff, so I'm not worried too much about how that looks. Let me clean that off again, and then I will get going with a bit of red for this little fella. Can't believe we forgot about him. Okay, once I clean my brushes in the water, I always give them a really good scumble about on an old cloth. It's really minging, but yeah, it's really not good. But it does work. And we're going to go in with a nice red cap. Good and thick with the color on this one, because he has got lots of green over. Now, for a beginner painting, I really don't mind that you've got that bit of green showing through your red underneath, because you know what? It kind of naturally creates like a darker red and lighter areas of red, and it kind of naturally creates shadows without you having to worry about doing that. So yeah, if you've got that bit of green showing through, like we can see a little bit up here and a little bit round there, that's just creating a darker area of red. So that's all good. We don't mind that. It's a great thing to happen. So we're just going to come back to him in a wee minute. We will give him a second coat of red at some point. Let's get going with a little bit of detail underneath the gills of the mushroom or the toadstool, and then a little bit of shading and stuff on here. So do you know what? I've still got red on my brush, so let's just use that to tint our white and yellow mixture. So I'm going to just mix up some white, some red, bit more of the yellow, and we're basically trying to create shades of brown. So we're going to go in, what do you know, what's the best way to create brown is basically mix a little bit of all your colors together. So we're going to go in with a tiny touch of the green and a tiny touch of the blue and a bit more yellow until you've got to do small amounts at a time though, and then a bit more yellow so that we can just basically try and get a brown color that we're going to use for these gills. So this is where you get to have fun and be like a kid again and just mix everything up. We need a little bit more of our yellow. So we're going in with that. Typically, I've got one that's almost running out. There we go. So that is the Liquitex Basics Cadmium Yellow that we've been using today. And I just need a bit more of that because we've ended up with a very grey looking colour and we want a very brown looking colour. So that's brought it back a bit. Tiny bit more red in there and then maybe a little bit more white, but we're going to see what colour this looks like on our mushroom stalk. So again, I'm just working super quickly. I'm trying to keep this nice and straightforward and easy for everyone. So we are gonna add a little bit of shadow around where the stalk meets the base of the mushroom. And then we're also going to add little bits of shadow onto the stalk of the mushroom itself. So down near the bottom and then down one side. That tends to be a good rule of thumb. It just kind of creates a little bit of shading here and there. So we're going to do that on this one as well. And we're going to keep the shadow on the same side. I feel like this is the darker side of the piece. So this is definitely where we've got more shadow. So we're going to I'm just using the end of my filbert brush. And we're just adding some of those lines as if we've got a bit of shadow in there. Again, I'm going to bring some greens and things up over the top of that stalk, so I'm not really worried too much how the bottom of that one looks, okay? Now, tricky bit, you can get a much thinner brush, get a little small detail brush out if you want to do this, but I'm just going to go in with the edge of my filbert and I'm just going to create some little lines, lots of little dashes, keeping the edge of my filbert nice and flat. And I'm going to add in some of those gills. So again, up to you how many you want to add. You want to get a really detailed brush, you could go in with different colors. You could go in with an even darker brown. You could go in with lighter areas. All of those things are possible. Totally your painting, up to you on how you do it. So that's us just approaching half an hour, and I do want to keep this one as quick as possible. So let's get that brush again cleaned off. It was a really nice one to work with for the red, so I'm just getting it cleaned off now. And I'm going to go in with a second coat of the red down here. Now, I'm not worried about getting so close to the edges this time because I've already done a coat that I was really careful. So we're going to do that. And then we'll do a second coat on this one. There we go. And I did slightly just go over the edge of my red with those little gills. So I'm just taking those back and being careful about that. Okay. Obviously, we've still got white spots to do on there, but firstly, let's go in and add a little bit of extra greenery down the bottom just to match this side here. So I'm just going to use this filbert brush again, which is basically a flat brush with a rounded top. So it is flat and round. And it's an eyeshadow brush, but you can buy painters filbert brushes as well. Those are a thing that you can get. I am going to go in because I want this to really stand out and I don't want to be here for ages and ages more. So I am going in with the green and the dark blue, just so we can get a really strong grass line. And I'm just using the edge of my filbert brush again, and I'm just brushing in little blades of grass. And I'm just doing a few more on this side so that the colors match. Oh, I love that phthalo blue and the deep permanent green mixed together. It's such a good color. And I'm not worried if some of these blades of grass look quite blue because things in shadow tend to look quite blue. So even if they look less green at this point, that's okay. It's okay with me if they look a little bit darker. So I'm just putting in a few of those. Perfect. The other thing with the filbert brush is you get a really nice like leaf shape if you do it on the side. So I might use that to dot in like a few leaves that are more like a wheat, like a blade of grass with wheat or something on it. It looks quite nice. Might add a few more of those in on this side, just doing little dots and dashes. I know it's quite hard for you guys. You're very far away from this, so I'll do another flower meadow tutorial, and we'll get that one in. Okay, and I did add some pink and yellow little flowers on that side. So if I don't put something over here, then it's not going to match. So we're just going to have to dot in a little something something over there. I'm just going to pick up a little small detail brush. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of that red in with the white. I'm guessing that's probably how I made the pink last time. And maybe a tiny bit yellow in it just to make it more peachy. And I'm going to put that colour over the top of the ones that I've already got because I do want them to match. So I don't want me having random 2 different colours. So we'll just do a few wee dots and dashes over there. And then we will add a few little blobs of flower over here. Is 3 blobs enough? Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I've got a few of these floating about. I do kind of quite like that they're more on one side than over the whole piece, but it maybe looks too random that they're just here. Might be good. Might be good. We might go for 3 up there, but let's get the white spots on the mushroom before we run out of time. So I am just going to use a cotton bud or a Q-tip. It's perfect for beginners. You can literally just dot your white paint on. If you want a bigger dot, you can do a little circular motion so you get the size of dot you want. And dot. The top tip here is just try and be random. Don't overthink it too much. Is it looking good? Yeah, I'd say it's looking good. Okay, let's finish off. First of all, this guy got some red on him by mistake. And one there. Oh, we need a bit more white on our cotton bud. So we can make a big one. Oh, that one left is a bit paint in the middle. You can go quite thick when you're putting these on. Don't forget to go near the edges as well. They don't need to be all in the middle. And yeah, the trickiest thing about this is not overthinking about it and literally just trying to be random with where your spots go. The only thing I'm trying to really do is make sure that I have kind of a similar amount that I have on the first side that I do on the second side. I think we'll call that good enough. We'll just take out a little bit of that white one there. I just did that by having a damp brush and smooshed away some of that some of the white paint that had spilled over into the gills of the mushroom. So I'll just paint out a little bit of that with that peachy color again. Perfect. Add a few little bits in here and there just to get it to look good. And then these little fairy orb dots are just more cotton bud. It's just the yellow and the white. So the same yellow that we used at the start and a bit of the white dotted together onto your cotton bud or your Q-tip. And then let's maybe do 1, 2, 3. How is that looking? Yeah, I like that. I might make these ones stronger just to balance it. And that guy there who's not quite a circle. Blur those ones out. Blur these ones out. Just using a damp, clean brush, and I'm just moving in little swirls. Maybe blur out one of these ones too. And then what I'll do is I'll get my nice small brush again, and we'll just add a couple of little fairy wings or firefly wings into those little blurs. Don't lean on my nice wet white dots. And one more little blurred out guy, so he gets a little firefly or a fairy in there. Perfect. I think that is me done for this evening. It was super fast. It was only half a canvas, but hopefully it showed you some beginner techniques that you can put into your own work. Basically, the biggest one is invest in some makeup brushes, and try this kind of dotting smooshing technique. It is great for foliage and giving you a bit of a smudgy textured background to a piece that involves nature's plants, animals, things like that. So that's my biggest top tip from tonight. I am going to tidy up my paints. I am going to enjoy the rest of my evening. And I will be back with another live soon. Bye, guys.